Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another live edition of Kevin's Biblical Discussions. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. To all who agree or disagree about the date of Jesus' birth, may we celebrate his coming into this world. And so tonight I got a debate between CJ Cox and Alec Cox on the topic, was Jesus born on the 25th of December? And now many of you know I'm adamantly opposed to Calvinism, but I still appreciate CJ being here, and I do consider him a Christian. So I'm going to add him to the stage. We're still waiting on Alec. He said he was having internet issues, but he said he'd be here shortly. And so, CJ, welcome to the channel. Thanks for being here, bro. Waiting for Alec. And you want to give a brief introduction? Whatever, go for it. Oh, nice hat, by the way. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you. Thank you. And shalom to everybody. Sorry, it's my head's itchy right now. It has nothing to do with the hat. The hat's actually a really good material. But anyways, shalom to everybody who's here, and thank you for being here. Yeah, if you guys don't know, my name is CJ Cox. I run the YouTube channel The Synagogue. It is a Christian apologetics and theology channel that has been back and forth on hiatus recently due to incredibly hectic life. So some of you guys may notice I'm only posting like once or twice a month these days. Unfortunately, fortunately, it's all good busy. It's all good busy. I'm back in school. You're gonna have to call me Dr. CJ at some point. I'm just kidding. And having some cool family stuff developing and stuff like that. But nevertheless, so we do a theology and apologetics channel there where we discuss apologetics and theology from what I call a reformed fundamentalist perspective. In other words, very literal, very fundamentalist, very to the book conservative, but also reformed Calvinist, right? Recently, haven't had a whole lot of stuff posted. We're going to do an open room tonight. And if anybody's interested, I actually have a couple things you can check out. If you're already interested in the channel, want to check out more, I have a book called 15 Questions for Calvinists Answered. If you'd like to check that out, you certainly can. And I appreciate you. And I also have a video blog over on my Patreon called Breakfast Tea. If you guys are interested in that, it's essentially, you write out the blog, and then instead of you guys having to read it, I actually say it like the same way Jared Longshore or Doug Wilson or guys like that would. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have about me, where you can find me, where you can support me, what I'm into, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, very happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. And we only got 4 people tuned in so far. But I didn't know Donnie was having a debate tonight with Robert St. Genis on the age of the earth, but I wasn't trying to compete with Donnie. But the original date I had, there was no debate on the other channels. See, so
yeah, that was which things do happen, so it's whatever with that. But yeah, unfortunately, not only is competing with Donnie a losing strategy when it comes to debates, but competing with Robert St. Genis is a losing strategy when it comes to debates because he's a fairly popular individual.
And that was not my intention, but here we are.
Indeed.
So while we're waiting for Alec, I guess I'll just briefly go over the debate format for the audience, and hopefully Alec will be here shortly because he just said he had the internet problem. I'm just assuming he had to restart his router. So we're going to be doing 10 to 15-minute opening statements, no longer. 10 minimum, 15 maximum. 10-minute rebuttal periods. So CJ's taking the affirmative, so he'll be going first. We'll do 20-minute cross-examination period, so 20-minute cross-exam from CJ, and then 20-minute cross-exam from Alec. And then we'll do 5-minute closing statements, and then if we have any questions from the audience, we can take those as well. So we'll see how it goes, and hopefully Alec shows up shortly here. Alec.
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't really have anything. Not really prepared for any in the meantimes. Do you have any in the meantimes?
Sure. I was hoping a 4-minute introduction would be enough time to reset your internet, but okay. I do have the next episode of Dave Hunt's book, What Love Is This? A review coming out probably tomorrow or the next day. I've been editing it. Me and Graham have been going through his book. He makes some good points in there, but he makes a lot of blunders too. So we haven't been going light on Dave. Like when he makes a stupid point, we point it out.
Oh, I don't actually mind that at all. Honestly, if you're gonna be honest about stuff, then obviously, it's
right.
good. It's good to do so. And actually, I've shared with you before. I have my own quibbles with that book, even the stuff you might agree with. But I always appreciate when somebody is being critical about it, even if they do agree with its overall premise or some of the points or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like I was actually just talking with, I can't remember who it was, but somebody the other day talking about like, oh yeah, it was about Alexander Hislop, which is actually going to be very relevant to this debate. So I won't get into too much detail with it, but suffice it to say, was trying to say, like, I think that Hislop's book, The Two Babylons, is historically terrible, frankly. But he also does make some really good points in it. So just because most of it is stuff that I don't like doesn't mean that all of it is stuff that I don't like. And I was trying to explain, so I wouldn't call him fraudulent to this individual I was talking to. It's just would say he gets this, that, and the third, wrong. And I'm trying to be vague here because I'm like 99% positive that Hislop is going to come up today. But at any rate, of course, we'll see, right? I haven't gotten a message here from Alec either.
No, he just told me that give him a second. He's having an internet issue, so I will reach out to him again real quick.
Heard that.
I apologize to the audience. I thought 4 minutes would be enough time for Alec to get in here, but apparently it wasn't. So. You know what? Just so there's not dead air, I think I'm just going to put my be right back thing up. I hope people don't leave, but Alec is coming. I've been in contact with him. So let me just put that up right there. Bam. All right, there he is.
Wow. That was a mess. That was like trying to get in there. Sorry about all that. Took another half hour. Jeez.
I'm surprised we still have 17 people. I thought they were going to leave.
Oh, they're waiting. Yeah, we got the slow internet now all of a sudden. I don't know what the hell's going on. It's just like rolling.
Well, just try to turn your camera off, Alec. It's all right.
My camera's not actually on. I'll stop it.
There you go.
There's that.
Okay. Did you have a presentation?
Internet. I've got like 5 gig internet, and it won't roll. It's just whatever. So yeah, what's happening? You already do your intro and say that the Catholic Church was right about all the dates, JC?
I haven't done anything yet as far as intro is concerned.
Oh, yeah? You say you're going to do the 4-minute intro, but all right.
No, we haven't done opening statements. CJ introduced himself to the audience.
Okay. Well, I'm Alec Cox. I'm generally a journeyman, just traveling for God, evangelist. I'm not a fan of the Catholic Church at all. Went to Catholic high school, found out all the reasons why they're wrong, and especially Christmas. Christmas and Easter are my pet peeves. And the reason for that is that Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. That's Saturnella Day. And we'll go from there.
All right. And you got anything coming up on your channel or anything like that, Alec? I'm
getting back on it. Finally got the computer issues all fixed, except for tonight. All of a sudden, can't get internet. And then, so the basis of it is, trying to build the channel and get some stuff out there.
All right. And then just a reminder for the audience, because it was a minute since I went over this, tonight's format is minimum of 10 minutes, up to 15-minute opening statements. Then we're going to do 10-minute rebuttal periods, and then 20-minute cross-exam each, and then 5-minute closing statements. And since CJ is the affirmative, he will be going first. And so CJ, finally, sorry about the wait, guys. Sorry, everyone. Whenever you're ready, CJ, I will go in the back, and you can start your opening statement.
All righty. Let me pull up my...
Actually, matter of fact, sorry about that. Let me get my timer just to make sure I got you.
Oh, you're good.
All right. And I got it. So on your first word, I will start the timer.
All right. Well, shalom, saints, and blessings to you all in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I want to first thank Brothers Alec and Kevin for participating in this debate with me and for hosting the debate, respectively. I'd also like to thank the audience for taking the time to listen to this debate. And of course, above all else, I'd like to give thanks to our Almighty God for blessing us with the opportunity to have this dialogue. And I'd like to ask him to bless our time here such that we all clearly and unambiguously can get to the truth, and that his body will be greatly edified in our doing so, thus glorifying his name above all else. The thesis question before us today is, was Jesus Christ born on December 25th? And I'm going to be arguing in the affirmative, or in other words, I will be arguing that he was, in fact, born on December 25th. I have a lot of information to get to, and 15 minutes is not nearly as much time as it sounds, so I'd like to jump right into my arguments for this evening's debate. And the first argument is going to be a very simple argument from Occam's razor. Occam's razor is a principle in argumentation which states that entities should not be multiplied beyond necessity, or in other words, if two answers have the same explanatory power, the simplest one is likely the correct one. This is a principle repeated by Aristotle, Duns Scotus, Maimonides, Ptolemy, and of course, Occam himself, and amongst many other people who have gone about this. And it is a principle which we can easily apply to our current debate topic in the following manner. What is the simplest answer to the question, why do we celebrate the birth of Christ on December 25th? Is it that long ago and far away, in an unrecorded event, a church that we have no record of co-opted a holiday that also lacks any extant primary resources? Or is it that Jesus was born on December 25th? Clearly, the answer is the one which does not multiply entities beyond necessity, or the answer to which one does not multiply entities beyond necessity, is the answer which only supposes that the Christmas story is true and nothing else. So what's the simplest answer to the question? Well, it was that Jesus was born on December 25th. The second argument, which is equally simple, is the argument from motive, or in this case, it's going to be lack thereof. We're going to dive deeper into this rebuttal during the rebuttal, and the cross-examination periods, as I would like to let Mr. Cox make his own claims before I address claims he may or may not be prepared to defend, as is only fair to him. But what we can say at this time is that there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that any pagan deities were born on or that any pagan holidays were celebrated on December 25th, at least not until after Jesus had already claimed the day for himself. I'm going to say that again so I can be perfectly clear. There is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that any pagan was observing December 25th until after Christians had already recognized the date as Jesus' birthday. This by itself destroys the most off-sided motivation for co-opting the date of December 25th because it calls into question the very notion that there is any holiday to co-opt. But it actually gets a lot worse than that for the Scroogists. How so? Well, not only does the motivation which Scroogists attribute to the ancient church not hold any water, but even if it did, the Scroogist still has a problem when attributing that motivation to non-Roman Christians and non-Catholic Christians and Christians who are not under the authority of the Roman Empire. Consider this. The Scrooge will argue that the church Christianized a pagan holiday in order to get the general populace to be more accepting of Christianity or to accept their already pagan religion. They reasoned that lay pagans had already been celebrating this date or these deities, and so keeping this time of year festive would be relatively easy transition for them. But if that were true, then why do non-Roman Christians who have no affinity for Roman holidays also celebrate on December 25th? For example, in Israel and in North Africa and in Turkey and in Greece and so on and so forth. Also, why do Christians who are not under the authority of the Roman Empire at all end up adopting December 25th? Think of the Orthodox churches, for example, those guys in Russia, or think of churches in India, or think of churches in Ethiopia, which have never had any association with the Catholics whatsoever. They all celebrate on January 7th on our calendar, but bear in mind that they use a Julian calendar, and on their own calendars, the day they celebrate is December 25th. Why? What's the motive? They have no link to Saturnalia or to Sol Invictus or to any of that sort of stuff. So why would they celebrate on those holidays? There's no way for a Scrooge to sufficiently answer this question. These arguments, however, are actually just softball arguments. The good stuff is only going to be arriving now. Our third argument is the argument from history, by which I mean the argument from the historical records which have been passed to us over the generations. It may surprise you to hear this, but Jesus' birth was known to be December 25th as early as the 200s AD, i.e. 3rd century, and possibly as early as the 100s AD, or 2nd century. Bear in mind that we don't have every record, and many are lost, or as many are lost to history, so we may have end up even finding something in the future that pushes this knowledge back even farther. But an example of this knowledge is the Latin bishop Hippolytus of Rome, a pupil of Irenaeus from the late 2nd and 3rd centuries AD, who wrote in his still extant commentary on Daniel the following, quote, "For the first advent of our Lord in the flesh, when he was born in Bethlehem, 8 days before the calends of January," calends is the first, just so you know, "4th day of the week, while Augustus was in his 42nd year, but from Adam 5,500 years, he suffered in the 33rd year, 8 days before the calends of April, the day of preparation, the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar, while Rufus and Rubulon and Gaius Caesar for the 4th time and Gaius Cestus Saturninus were consuls," end quote. The text above was written around the year 200, which means that the tradition of Christ's birth being on December 25th is likely one which precedes the 200s, as I suggested earlier. This also means that Jesus' birth was recorded as being December 25th over a century before Christianity was legalized in the Roman Empire, which is 313 AD, over a century before the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, roughly 70 years before the birth of Constantine in 272 AD, and roughly the same amount of time before Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, or the birth of Sol Invictus, was moved to December 25th by the persecutor Emperor Aurelian, which happened in 274 AD. In fact, Aurelian himself wasn't even born until 214 AD, which means Hippolytus was writing this before he was even born. This source then by itself completely and utterly shreds the notion that Christians stole this day from pagans, whilst also providing us a witness to Christ's birth being less than 2 centuries after he was born, which, by the by, makes this an incredibly important resource. Why? Jesus was not an earthly nobleman or the ruler of a nation, and so getting a record of his birth date this early is actually exceptional in the historical record. My opponent may object that some scholars consider the quoted portion to be interpolated and thus not originally attributed to Hippolytus. So I will preemptively address this argument before we look at any other sources. Firstly, the source is attested to incredibly early, with the specific passage being quoted, being referenced, as early as the 600s AD by George Bishop of the Arabs. Secondly, the source contains calculation errors of the sort that a forger would be very careful to avoid. Listen carefully to this argument because it may be confusing. Hippolytus lists Christ's birth as being around 2 to 3 BC, his death around 29 to 30 AD, and his age at time of crucifixion at 33. But given the time frame he's given us, he would be 31, possibly 32 at the oldest. Per the criterion of embarrassment, this actually points to the authenticity of Hippolytus's text, as a forger would not want to make his forgery seem unreliable to those whom he wants to deceive. In other words, if something in the text is embarrassing to Hippolytus and Hippolytus is the source, that doesn't help a forger. But it does demonstrate Hippolytus may actually be telling the truth. Lastly, the argument against the text is at least in part circular. People will say Hippolytus could not be an early source because the date was not yet established, which of course is a circular argument. There's much more that we can say on this topic, but we already have to sacrifice some sources because of time constraints, and I want to get to some of my other arguments, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to jump now to 240 AD, give or take. We're not sure the exact year this text was written. There is a work, though, known as De Pascha Computis, which roughly translates to the computation of Easter, and which was attributed by history to Pseudo-Cyprian, who is not a real person, but just a fancy way of saying that some people used to attribute this to Cyprian, and we no longer do. The work itself does not claim an author, and it was only attributed to Cyprian by others well after he had died. At any rate, the text is known to date to around the mid-3rd century AD, and it says the following, quote, "Who, contrary to the received opinion, cast the day of the nativity of Christ on the 28th day of March, except in that what he says of the birth is to be understood of the conception, which is believed to have happened around this time, that is, March the 25th, end quote. Notice that the Pseudo-Cyprianic writer claims that Jesus was conceived on the 25th of March, i.e. 9 months to the day before December 25th. As it happens, and as you all know very well, 9 months is the amount of time it takes to gestate a baby. I know I'm educating no one when I say that. Which means if Jesus was conceived 9 months to the day before December 25th, he would have been born on or around the day December 25th. And again, this is well before Constantine was born, well before Sol Invictus was said to be born on December 25th, well before Aurelian moves that holiday, so on and so forth, right? It is also a non-controversial source, meaning that there is no dispute over its authenticity and no dispute about when we should date it. Lastly, De Pascha is recording a tradition which pre-exists itself. Go back to the language of the text, and this is what he says of Christ's birth. He calls it the received opinion, meaning he received it from someone else. He says Christ's conception is believed to have happened around March 25th, meaning this is a general belief at his time. In other words, he's implying that this is the widely held position at the time that he wrote this text. So the Pseudo-Cyprianic literature not only gives us a witness to the belief around 240, but actually gives us a witness to this being the established view before 240. The last historical point we want to look into is the issue of the Donatists. The Donatists were a schismatic sect of rigorous Christians who considered themselves to be the true Church of Christ, believing the mainline Christian church to have apostatized during the Diocletian persecutions. The Donatists broke away from the main church around 312, and as we read from Augustine's Sermon 202 on the Epiphany, this led to the Donatists rejecting any practices and traditions which became mainline after 312. An example of this is Epiphany, which was a well-established holiday in the East around Turkey and so on, but was not established in the West and North Africa where the Donatists were, and thus they rejected the holiday. However, the Donatists did celebrate Christmas, and they even did so on December 25th. They didn't establish the date, but some scholars believe they may have been the first to celebrate it as a holiday. If the Donatists refused to celebrate Epiphany because it was a post-schism development, and the Donatists did celebrate Christmas on December 25th, then it stands to reason that the holiday potentially and the date absolutely predate the Donatist schism of 312, which is the same year Constantine is said to have converted to Christianity, and a year before the Edict of Milan, and 13 years before the Council of Nicaea. And there's much more history we could get into besides this. But here's the thing, I am running short on time, and so we're now going to jump to biblical arguments. In 1 Chronicles chapter 24, we read that the Levitical priesthood was divided into 24 castes by family for temple service. We only need to know one verse here, and that is verse 16, which says the 7th was to Hakaz, and the 8th was to Abiah. Jumping down to verse 19, it says, these were the orderings of them in their service to come into the house of the Lord, according to their manner under Aaron their father, as the Lord God of Israel had commanded them. Again, this is 1 Corinthians 24. The full passage is 7 through 19. Now, each cast would do temple duties for 1 week, and as we all know, there are much more than 24 weeks in a single year. So when all casts had done their temple duties, the cycle would start over, meaning that each cast would actually do temple duties twice in a year. For a historical source, you can go ahead and look at Tractate Ta'anit, chapter 4 in the Talmud. Now, we read in Exodus chapter 12 that the Passover month, which is in Nisan, otherwise known as Aviv, is also roughly equivalent, to our March-April area of the year, is the first month of the year according to the Jewish calendar, meaning we would start the priestly cycle on Nisan the 1st, which again is roughly in March or April. Later on, in Luke chapter 1, we learn that John the Baptist was conceived when the 8th division of the priesthood, namely Abiah, was doing his temple duties. And in the very same chapter, we learn that in the 6th month of John the Baptist's gestation, a certain child called Jesus was conceived of a virgin.
2-minute warning, CJ.
Thank you very much. Quote, there was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias of the council of Abiah, and his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. It came to pass that while he executed the priest's office before God in the order of his course, according to the custom of the priest's office, his lot was to burn incense when he went into the temple. And there appeared unto him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar. But the angel said unto him, Fear not, Zacharias, for thy prayer is heard, and thy wife Elizabeth shall bear a son, and shall call his name John. And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto Galilee, named Nazareth, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. The angel said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God, and behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Jesus. So I have to be quick with this. I'm sorry if it's too fast, but we have a lot of information here. Let's put together a little timeline. The year starts sometime between March, April, and 8 weeks in, Abiah does his temple duties. 24 weeks after that, Abiah does a second stint of temple duties, as the cycle repeats itself once a year. This means Abiah is doing temple duty either in May, June, or around September, October of our calendar. During this time, or at least immediately after, John the Baptist is conceived. In the 6th month, notice not 6 months in, but in the 6th month, Jesus is himself conceived. This means Jesus is conceived either in the October-December area of the year or in the February-April area of the year. And of course, 9 months after that, Jesus would be born. This means that Jesus is born either in the late July to early September window or the late November to early January window biblically. And wouldn't you know it, but smack in the middle of one of those windows just so happens to be the date that tradition and history...
20 seconds.
Jesus Christ. Thank you, sir. Now, this is only a small fraction of the overwhelming evidence in support of a December 25th birth date. We have seen that reason and logic argue for a December 25th birth date. We've seen that Scripture argues for a December 25th birth date. And we've seen that history and tradition argue for a December 25th birth date. Our only question is, will you reject reason, history, and Scripture in favor of your own conspiracy theories?
All right, CJ, thank you very much for that opening statement. I'll now add Alec. And by the way, guys, if you guys have anything you want to share, you can do that. I can put it on the screen for you.
I got stuff to share. That was really good, JC. Doing all the people that were 400 years after Christ's birth and things like that. That's when really Christmas got started, was 354 AD. So Christmas really wasn't celebrated until, that's the earliest they can find, 354. So even the earlier apostles, and then you had other people that were apostolized, and they don't write about Christmas at all, or the 25th. So let me do the let's see, screen share. We'll go to...
All right, Alec, I'm going to pause your timer until you get your presentation on the screen.
Let's see here. There we go. We'll do this. We'll work with the slides first.
Sure. Just
trying to get to the enter button. Jesus. Why won't it just enter it? There we go.
All right, I got it.
So, Jesus Christ,
resume your timer now.
All right. So Jesus Christ was born. That is a fact. During the Feast of Tabernacles in the month of Tishri. Tishri is September, October. And how this is devised, next slides will show, is that everything is linked to John the Baptist's 6 month earlier birth to Jesus Christ. So you take John the Baptist's birth, and exactly 6 months later, Jesus Christ was born. And that's not in December. It's actually September, October. There's a little thing called the Feast of Tabernacles. And when it says God with us, you'll call him Emmanuel, which is God with us. He is tabernacling with us. And only feasts for the Hebrews are in autumn or spring. The first of the priestly months of the year is Nisan. Okay, the first of the non-priestly or civil calendar is Tishri, is Kislev. Okay, so basically you have the people that are not followers of Christ, or in Hebrew, that denied Jesus Christ. They kept with the civil calendar. And yes, we'll find that the line of Abiah was Zacharias and his wife Elizabeth, and how that all worked out. And then 6 months into it, Mary comes to visit. She's already conceived by the Holy Spirit. And because John the Baptist leaps in the womb of Elizabeth, and that month was basically during, because it says nothing about Zacharias there. So he's probably in the temple at that time. So John the Baptist was born in March or April. Okay. And that does not bring us to, around about what we celebrate as Easter, but the crucifixion, Passover is when he was born. So in the spring, you have the Passover, Exodus 12, and I'll get to that in just a second here. Let me go down on my thing. It's kind of hard to see. Try and blow it up. But this guy's got it correct. So basically, it's the characteristics and everything of the fourth daily lottery, which is held in participation of all the priests to determine who would bring the parts of the sacrifice from the altar, ramp up to the top, where their sacrifices were continued. This is during the Passover. So you have, they for the daily sacrifices, they still sacrifice lambs, things like that. Then the angel Gabriel appears to Zacharias during course 8 of Abijah in the 4th century BCE. So Jesus Christ is not year 0. The Gregorian calendar is off by 6 to 4 years. They started at 0, went through the different types of calendars, then landed up on and the solar calendars are still not good. Lunar calendar is actually more accurate. So when you look at the 4 BC area, all right, so if you look at Jesus's birth being in 4 BC, he was 3 years into almost exactly his telling of the gospel when he was crucified. So you have to be 30 years old to be a priest, right? So John the Baptist becomes a priest 6 months before Jesus Christ. They meet, and John the Immerser baptized Jesus. And that's how we all get started in this. So basically, you're looking at Luke chapter 1 through chapter 1, verses 5 through 35. Is this says 33, but I'll go 35. And the thing with this is that the month that would have started, I have maps to show it later, that would have started the temple for Zacharias in the order of Abijah, or Abiah as it says. It drops the J and the H in the New Testament. But he would have conceived about July or August was when this happened. It was his second time going to the temple. And this is where JC gets a bit confused. He reverses the dates, because we don't hear about him during Passover, which is in the month of Nisan, right, which is the priestly calendar of the first month. We only hear later it would be his second. So John the Baptist, and if you look at the 9 months, July to Passover, which would be in March or April, depending on the lunar year, would bring you John the Baptist. Okay, and then all you need to do from there, it's so simple. Count the 6 months. This is exactly all written out in Luke 1. And you think Luke didn't know what happened? I think Luke talked to everybody. He also wrote Acts, if anybody knows that. So, this is pretty damning evidence that a bunch of Catholic priests, and I'll tell you about the Catholic priests, how they got started. It was under Constantine. He wanted rule. He wanted to join the kingdoms of Constantinople back with Rome, make one Roman Empire again. And so, they paint some crosses. The legend is paint crosses on their shields, and they get blessed by some pagan whatevers. And they go out there and they say, we're going to win this for Christ. And they end up winning. There's a battle on a bridge. So then the false conversion, the whole thing, it gets kind of murky in there, because all he did, you got to understand, there was temples everywhere all across the Middle East that were pagan, to Diana, to others that were, male and female, but mostly the places that were of debauchery were for Diana, because she's a sex goddess. And that all comes from Semiramis way back in the Tower of Babel days in Genesis. Genesis 3:15 is actually the first mention of Christ being born, when they fall in the garden by eating the fruit. So Genesis 3 verse 15, and then you go from there. So Jesus Christ is all throughout the Old Testament. He's just not in man form yet. You come over to, the Constantine thing. What he did is he traded out the pagan priests that were wearing robes and pith type hats and things like that during their thing. You can see them chiseled all over the wall if you want to go to the Middle East. They're all chiseled all over the wall. They got the big acorn thing on their head, a whole bunch of stuff. They also have the fish hat that the Pope wears, which is Dagon, which is another pagan god. But they're all the same gods. They're, Ham, Cush, and Nimrod. And then you have Semiramis, which is Diana, and all the rest. But going back to Constantine, what he did is he just basically, turned the churches into places of worship, but it wasn't technically Christianity yet. They say he created it, but it wasn't. So that's a big history lesson on Constantine. The other side is more about John the Baptist, the immerser. If you go to Numbers 4:1-3, this is really good information. I'll email this to you guys, but this is well detailed by a Hebrew person, as a matter of fact. He's a Christian, but he's Hebrew, and so he would understand the temple and how it goes. Not quoting any Catholic priests at all. He just goes through exactly Numbers 4:1-3, which I put it right up here. I think I got it. There's Mike. Didn't get Numbers 4-3. Anyway, I'll read it. So basically, then the Lord go to the Moses. So Moses and Aaron, this is how they set up all of the priests under Abijah at first. And then it goes to later on, it goes to 24 under Solomon. So Solomon brought the 24. Wasn't exactly David. David had a son that became a priest, different things like that. So it kind of mixes up the priestly thing. And maybe they did two things, but you got to remember the Hebrew months are only 29 and 30 days. They'll add 2 Adars, which are months. They'll add 1 Adar if they need to make it even. But you got to remember, it's not the Gregorian calendar that's, 6 to 4 years off from where we are. Because right now it is 5485. No, wait, 75. I think I got that backwards. 5785. I'll have to look at it. It's over here. In the Hebrew years. But we're only in 2024 because we go from the 0 date and then we go from minus dates is that. So right here, this basically just says that the daily sacrifice failed in the Second Temple. And this goes into the Second Temple, what happened in 70 AD, which is also linked to crucified Jesus' crucifixion and his birth, because he was no longer on the earth at that time. And then when you get into different types of readings and all that, you get Arkin, which is correctly records of Psalm 24 was being sung on day 17, month 4 of the Yom Rishon, and that's also a holiday in September, October. And so there are no Hebrew dates at all in December, January, or February. Okay, December. I don't even think there's any in November. So this whole December thing just falls apart when you look at the actual thing. So John the Baptist born 6 months to almost, the day, I guess it would be. I take it literally as 6 months to the day. Jesus is born, and it would be the Feast of Tabernacles because he comes to dwell with us. There's no reasoning for taking over Saturnella Day. And there is proof, JC, about them celebrating this, even in Jeremiah, where they talk about decking the Christmas trees, fastening it down, decorating with silver and gold when they bring them into their house. And that is a type of Saturnella, but it was for Tammuz, because a week for Tammuz right after Christmas. So I don't know how many minutes I got left, but
2 minutes and 18 seconds.
All right. So these are the months. So Nisan, first month, which usually is March and April. Then you have Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, Tishri. Okay, that's the month that Jesus Christ was born. Nisan was the month that John the Baptist was born. It was about Tammuz or where he was conceived, and Jesus would have been conceived 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on Tevet. He was conceived in Christmas time. That's when he was conceived, not born. So the addition subtraction thing kind of ruins JC's argument. I don't care how many Catholic priests he gives up. Catholic priests are really horrible. They fix their own books. A lot of things are crazy with the Catholic Church because I know I debated them when I was in high school and they lost. You have to read the Bible. Don't go outside to an extent. If you read Luke 1, you're going to find out that Jesus Christ was exactly 6 months after, and nobody is Quirinius is not going to put anybody into vote in Christmas time because it is hard to travel. Like today, it's like 33 degrees at night. Nobody's traveling, at that time, and you'd have to be a really bad politician to bring that up. So I'll stop sharing and then give it back to you. See if I can remember.
All right, Alec, you still had 42 seconds left.
Yeah, that's enough. It just goes. It's a very easy thing. You don't have to go through who wrote what book in the 6th century AD or the 8th century AD. Oh, look, we found some camel poop inside some straw, and Jesus Christ was there at some hotel. And by the way, Feast of Tabernacles, he was born in a manger, which is kind of like a trough. Go ahead.
All right, so we'll move on to the rebuttal portion. CJ, are you there?
Yes, sir.
All right. On your word, when you're ready, you can start your 10-minute rebuttal, and I'll put me and Alec in the back.
All right. Thank you.
And again, if you need to share a screen, just let me know.
I don't think I will. I don't have like a slide or anything like that.
All right. Well, on your word, I will start it, CJ.
Thank you very much. All right. So, with respect, almost nothing that was just said is correct. And a lot of it was actually addressed directly in my opening statement. So let's go through this very quickly. So we're going to start in backwards order because that's the way I have it written down here. He says it's 33 degrees right now. That doesn't make very much sense for travel. As it stands right now in Israel, see right there, it is 46 degrees in Jerusalem. And if you go and look through the months there, you will see that it is between high 40s and high 50s, sometimes low 60s in Jerusalem right now. I would also like to point out it is a particularly cold winter in Jerusalem right now. So it's just simply not correct to say it would be too cold at that time. We're not talking about Britain. We're not talking about Alaska. We're not talking about Minnesota. We're not even talking about Idaho, where I am right now. We're talking about Israel, which is a Mediterranean climate that is more akin to what we would find in, say, Southern California or the Gulf of Mexico. Also, we brought up the manger, the birthing period for lambs. The most popular lamb in the Levantine region is known as an Asawi lamb, or a Wasi lamb, excuse me. And their birthing period is actually in the months of December and January in Israel, or the months of November and December in Syria. So there actually would absolutely be mangers available if you'd like a source on that. There is a professor at the University of Jerusalem named H. Epstein, also a Hebrew. By the way, I'm a Hebrew, who has pointed this out. No connection between Christmas trees and Tammuz. It's also not relevant, but it's also just flatly wrong. Jeremiah is not about Christmas trees. Christmas trees don't celebrate Tammuz. Tammuz isn't related to Diana. I mean, that's just a whole banquet of incorrect. So we just got to point that out. There's also no link of Diana to Semiramis, and you're getting Diana wrong. Diana is a fertility goddess, not a sex goddess. I know that sounds like it is pedantic, but it's not when you consider that the pantheons here split these into different things. There's a marriage goddess, Hera. There is that's the Greek version. I'm using Greek names right now. There is a sex goddess, Aphrodite, and there is a fertility goddess, Demeter, who in the Roman religion is Diana, right? So it's important for us to point out that we're mixing terms here. We're mixing deities here, and it's not actually accurate to mix these deities. Says the lunar calendar is more accurate. Well, Ramadan is celebrated a different month every single year because they use a lunar calendar. The Jewish calendar is not a lunar calendar. It is a solar lunar calendar, which means it is based off of monthly cycles, but it keeps itself in line with the solar calendar by way of the Metonic cycle, whereby 7 out of every 19 years you add a leap month. And that's how they keep themselves in line with the solar calendar. That's why Passover is always in the March-April region and doesn't switch all around the calendar like Ramadan does on the solar calendar that the Muslims use. You know what else is not a solar calendar, but is actually a lunisolar calendar? The Gregorian. That's why we have leap days and stuff like that. Now, ours lines up more with the solar than the Hebrews does, and the Hebrews lines up more with the lunar than ours does. These things are true, but both of us use a month cycle, month, moon, you see that connection, and use a yearly solar cycle to keep our calendars in line. So you're unfortunately wrong in your calendrical information as well. But I'm being pedantic, right? I'm just pointing out all the different areas where this isn't very well researched. So let's get to some of the meat here. Okay. So he accepted, as I said in my opening statement, that the priestly cycle starts in Nisan, otherwise known as Av, right? He pointed out Tishrei is the beginning of the civil calendar, but Exodus 12 does say that the ecclesiastical calendar would start in Nisan. Fantastic. All right. Abaya is the 8th division in. Now, I already said this, but we're going to say it again. Okay. Being the 8th division in, that means he is going to take up the 8th and the 32nd point in the year. 8th and 32nd month or week, excuse me, in the year. Remember, it repeats for a source on that, Tractate Ta'anit, chapter 4 in the Talmud, which is the exact same place, by the by, we're going to find the ecclesiastical division versus the civil division. So if he wants to object to our using of the Talmud, he's using it as well, even though he may not know it. Okay. So if we are going to be in both these positions, that means we have 2 possible dates, okay, or 2 possible time frames, we'll say. One of those possible time frames, as I had already said, gets us into, I believe I said it was the August region. Let me go ahead and check my notes here. Yeah, the August area, just about. Really, it's actually the September region, just about. Late September to early October. And the second region would get, or the second possible date, time that Jesus could be born would be anywhere from late November to early January. Those are, biblically speaking, those are the only 2 dates that it's possible. Now, somebody might say, well, Feast of Tabernacles can be late September, and it can even be in October as well. So doesn't that mean that I might be right, Jay? Well, no. Why? Well, because absolutely nobody in the historical record linked Jesus's birth to the Feast of Tabernacles. No one. The first people to actually do it were the Puritans in the 1600s. Puritans did a lot of really good, very wise things. This, unfortunately, was not one of them. Now, in the historical record, you have a debate between two times of year. It's the winter time that I'm taking right now and the springtime. You can go to Clement of Alexandria for a source on this. He argues that Jesus was born sometime between April the 20th and May the 20th, whereas the other side of the coin was arguing for sometime during the December-January point. So historically, you have two dates. One happens to be December, one happens to be in May, right? And biblically, you have 2 points. One is in October, September region, and one is in January, December region. Well, if these two have outliers, but they also both have one that meets in the middle, that lets you know that that one that's in the middle is probably right. If the history can argue for December, but can't argue for September, and if the Bible can argue for December, but can't argue for spring, then the outliers are the ones you do away with. It seems like December is likely the correct date. He says that they only have feast in spring and autumn. Hanukkah? A little Hanukkah right up there. That it's just simply not true. The Hanukkah is also celebrated. Also, Purim is celebrated outside of these named regions. So unfortunately, you just are not informed on your holidays. He says 354 AD is the earliest that we can find Christmas. Now, that is not accurate, but I know where he got it from. The chronograph of 354, which actually is recording an event that took place in 336, is the earliest we can have an unambiguous and direct reference to Christmas as a holiday. That's true. I'll freely grant that. But it is not the earliest reference to Christmas. There are just others that are slightly ambiguous. Nor is it the earliest unambiguous reference to December 25th as Christ's birthday. We actually already quoted two for you. De Pascha Computus says that Jesus was conceived on March 25th. That means 9 months later, he'd be born December 25th. That's 240. That's 114 years before the chronograph. And Hippolytus of Rome says that Jesus is born in 200 AD. He says this on December 25th directly. We read the quote for you, right? And that's on the commentary of Daniel. So,
2 minute warning, CJ.
Thank you, brother. So it's just simply not accurate to say that this wasn't established until after Constantine. It was established well before Constantine. And there are numerous other records I could give you as well. For example, Julius Africanus links the creation date, which he believes is March 25th, to Jesus's conception date. That's around 210 AD. Origen laments that Christians are celebrating birthdays in the 250s AD. Well, whose birthday are they celebrating? Probably Jesus's, at least possible. There is the Liber Pontificalis, which is a questionable source, but which nevertheless does have some accuracy in it. In the late 2nd century AD, says that Theophorus, a bishop in Rome, who was not actually a bishop in Rome, but nevertheless they call him a bishop in Rome today. They say that he actually is the first to institute a Christmas Eve celebration. Again, that's in the 290s, right? You have historians from the 300s, Augustine and Eusebius, John Chrysostom, who all point to a tradition of celebrating Christmas that pre-exists them, and so on and so forth. So it's just flatly false to say that Christmas is not actually found, or December 25th is not found explicitly before 354 AD. It's just not true. It's just not true. And even in my own opening statement, I gave you two sources plus the Donatist source, which demonstrates, remember, the Donatists didn't celebrate anything that happened after 312. So when the mainline church in 325 in the Council of Nicaea under Constantine decided to adopt certain practices like celebration of the Turkish Epiphany, right? The Donatists rejected that. Thank you, brother. The Donatists rejected that because they had a schism in 312 before that took place, but they celebrated Christmas, which means the celebration of Christmas took place before 312 AD. The last thing I just want to say is on Saturnalia. Guys, you can look this up. Google is a thing. September 17th to September 23rd. It was not on the 25th. That's false information. And that was the extended version of the holiday. The original holiday was September 17th to 19th. And thank you very much, my brother.
All right. Thank you for that rebuttal period, CJ. Alec, when you're ready, you can start your rebuttal.
Yeah, I like how he debunked everything is wrong. Everything is wrong. Dude, I gave you freaking charts. I gave you stuff that you can actually read from people who have done a lot of research. You gave me a bunch of lip service. You don't even know about Constantinople and the split in Rome, and you don't know that the pagan priests became the Catholic Church, the universal church. That was during Constantinople, just to join the Roman Empire back together. The other part is that you just blatantly totally reversed everything and called me this, and I can call you the same thing. I mean, I don't know where you're getting your information about. Who cares that 200 years after Christ is born? All right, we don't have a lot of accurate information from disciples or those that hung around with John, Mark, and Luke and Paul and all those. We don't have a lot of writings from them. Okay, Diocletian, probably is a problem with that. And, anybody had a Bible was basically killed. But nobody's getting born in a manger outside in 44-degree weather. I mean, it's just not going to happen, dude. And the Magi thing is a total fallacy. It was, that's why if you go to, Luke and you read exactly what is said about what Herod did, it's all the children under the 2 years of age, okay, from Bethlehem to all the shores. How many cities are on the shores? There's quite a few, as a matter of fact. Haifa, some others. That had a lot of children that were killed that were under the age of 2. But thank God that he told Joseph and Mary to head over to Egypt and spend some time until Herod died. So, Jesus came back. He was probably about 12 because he was preaching in the 12 years. You don't have to be 13. It's 12 years. He was preaching to the people inside the temple when Joseph and Mary were looking for him. So there's a lot of history there. But I'll go back to the part where you say that the month, I think you're thinking in, you're missing the Adars, number one, and you're missing the fact that Jesus Christ was not born in December. Okay. He was born 3 months before that. And there's a lot of reasoning for that. And Purim, for instance, is not a holy day. Purim is a celebration of them, not being slain by, their offenders while they're under the Persian Empire. And then you have Hanukkah. Come on, dude. Celebrate Hanukkah? I mean, just because of a menorah? I mean, it has nothing to do with any of the priestly. There are no priestly festivals, is what I said. I didn't say, anything about, celebrating somebody's birthday on a regular day. What I did say is priestly festivals are in spring, beginning with Nisan, which was in Exodus 12. If you recall Moses going out, and all the rest were all fulfilled by Moses and Aaron as they were, 40 years in the desert. So they built a temple. They had a whole bunch of other things. So you trying to just slam that, somebody said that somebody was born. And, Saturnalia is just one. It goes back to Babylon. You got to go back to, I know we had this about 3 years ago or 2 years ago about Easter. Okay. And they're chiseled on the wall, dude, from like 4,000 years ago. You need to get out of your bed and go visit some places. That's what you need to do. Because what you're doing is you're just reading what you like to read. December 25th has nothing to do with Jesus Christ, has nothing to do with any of Christians. And I doubt that there are a lot of Christians that, a lot of pulling away from December because all it's about is money. And it was invented. I'm going to say this. It was invented just recently to earn more money by handing out discounts. Well, a lot of people don't understand with a business that you can basically use those as tax write-offs on those discounts. So if you usually sell something for $1,000 and you're selling it for $800 now, That's $200 difference. You can write off that $200 difference. So Christmas has become basically a economical and a structured pagan holiday, which it always was pagan. You just need to do history on Babel, then go into Nebuchadnezzar, and then go into even the Persian Empire and on into Greece, and then you can go into Rome and the Visigoths and all of that. There's no part of Jesus in those countries. So when you when you look at the information that you gave me about 201, somebody mentioned something. Well, you know, we have the most information bombarded on us every single day. And there's so much crud that just comes in, and then they say, "Oh, well, they never apologize." Well, we were mistaken. Even the news media today, and we have cameras. London and Great Britain is the most, basically they got everything under a camera. And LA's getting like that. San Francisco's like that. So there's a lot more going on as we increase, but a lot less really good information. Information there's 5 different ways you can tie a shoe, different things. But the main part is it all depends on Zacharias. And you haven't mentioned it once. You were wrong about his first time in the temple, and you're wrong about the second time in the temple. And you're also wrong at the time that was when she conceived, and it was, they had to do the circumcision at the 8-day rule. All right. And she said John, and he said John as he wrote on, because the angel Gabriel made him, basically just dumb, couldn't speak, couldn't give that name. So that was after they had him circumcised. So circumcision is a thing. And he was not in the temple at that time. So you're sadly mistaken. If you count up, it's 270 days to 280 days is normal pregnancy. So if you count out, if he was born in July, just count August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. April, that's Easter. According to your solar calendar myth. And the reason it travels all the time is because it has to, because that's what the Lord wants. It's about the festival. It's not about the date. You understand that, right? I hope you do. And I'll finish with that.
All right, Alec, thank you for that 10-minute rebuttal period. Let me stop the time. You still had 2 minutes left, but that's okay. All right, so we'll move into the cross-exam portions. And I want to stress, and I thank you both for being here, please try to keep it cordial, try to limit over-talking, and try to be respectful to each other, because if you start bickering stuff, I'm going to have to, get involved and mute microphones, and I don't want to have to do that. So please just be cordial with each other, and let's try to have a respectful debate, okay?
You're good, Kevin.
All right. So, CJ, you're going to start the first 20-minute cross-exam portion. And during this portion, you are only allowed to ask questions. And Alec, you are allowed to answer questions. And if you need a clarifier, you can ask for clarifying. But other than that, no. Okay? And on your word, CJ, I will start the timer for your 20-minute cross.
Heard that. Thank you. So we'll start with a question about you took issue with Hippolytus being 200 years after the birth of Christ. Is that correct?
You heard me. Yeah, I did, because it would have been chained down, but nobody was celebrating Christmas then.
Okay, so what's the earliest resource for Jesus being born in September?
The earliest resource is the Bible.
Okay, but I'm saying the Bible says December. So what's the earliest extra biblical resource?
Because you don't know math.
Hang on, no, you can't. This is my time. Stop.
Okay, go ahead. Well, you answer me a question.
What is the earliest extra biblical resource that claims Jesus was born in September?
I think it goes back to somewhere after Constantine, because you got to remember the Catholic Church took over. Pretty much.
You think it's after Constantine? Is that right?
A little bit after, yeah.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, you're saying it's a problem that Hippolytus wrote 200 years after Jesus's birth, but Constantine is 325 years after Jesus's birth, and you don't think that's a problem?
Oh, it's a huge problem, him writing about it, because nobody was celebrating it at that time. Nobody was celebrating. They were celebrating the pagan holiday, not Jesus Christ's birth. And the only birthday that's really the only birthday. Oh, hang on.
Sorry, no, it's.
I'll let you go.
I'm
the only birthday that's celebrated is Herod's in the Bible.
I don't. So, with respect, I don't. And I'm actually trying to help you out here with this one. I just want to be clear, because I don't think you're understanding my question correctly. I'm asking you, when's the earliest source that says Jesus was born in September outside of the Bible, not December? I think you're arguing for a December. You're saying that Constantine wrote about it being December, right? But what is the earliest resource that says Jesus was born in September outside of the Bible?
Well, September wasn't around at that time, so it would have been Tishri. So that,
either way,
that basically goes from September to October. And if you look at this year's festivals, they're all in October.
Right, but that's not an answer to my question, brother.
Well, it is an answer because that's a non-question.
No, it is a question.
You're asking me September. Nobody was born in September.
All right, guys, hang on. All right, relax. CJ, perhaps restate the question, and Alec, please answer the question. Go ahead, CJ.
All right, real quick clarification. September existed in 500 BC. It's a Roman month, so that's just factually wrong. But let's change it for Tishrei. Okay, what is the earliest source outside of the Bible that says Jesus was born in Tishrei?
It doesn't give the exact months because nobody's birthday except for Herod's is really mentioned in the Bible. And
right outside of the Bible,
it doesn't see that they did. Well, were there any sources outside the Bible with the pagans and all that? I doubt it. They didn't care about Jesus at the time.
Well, you have Christian historians and stuff you could reference, right?
Oh, I do, but they're much later.
Okay, I mean, much later. All right. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay. So you take issue with Hippolytus writing about Jesus's birth in December 200 years after the fact, but you don't take issue with Christians writing about Jesus's birth in Tishrei hundreds, if not thousands of years after the fact. Why is that?
People don't read the Bible. They do not study the Bible. And people have actually a economical reason to not take it away from December 25th.
That's not my question.
This is true. It is your question. It's fully answered.
It's not. My question is,
you asked me about Tishrei.
You're not understanding my question. My question is, why do you think it's a problem that the earliest source for Jesus's birth on December 25th outside of the Bible is 200 years later, when you don't think it's a problem that the earliest source for Jesus's birth in September is thousands of years later? Why is one a problem, but the other is not a problem for you personally, Alec Cox?
Well, it's not a problem thousands of years later. You're the one that's thousands of years late. The problem is that those didn't get off the ground because you had those people in Alexandria, you had the people writing the fake Septuagint, you had people writing a bunch of different documents that they tried to make their own Bible. You got the Catholic Vulgate, and it fit right on their holiday, for Tammuz. If you go back to the Babylonians, you got to study the Babylonians too, because that was basically the problem why you only hear about other people's birthdays.
All right, so we're not really getting anywhere with this question. I'm going to ask one more time. I'm trying to ask it in a different way because I don't think that you're answering it. You believe we both claim the Bible argues for us, so we need to find something else to justify that. Outside of because I can say the Bible, you can say the Bible. All right, where do we go from there, right? So you took issue with Hippolytus as a source. How can you trust somebody 200 years after? And you just said that your earliest source for September or Tishrei is well after the fact. Why do you not believe your sources are problematic, given that you think my sources are problematic for being at a later date?
Because of scriptural evidence that has been found lately in a lot of, I'm not talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'm not talking about those are all fake. I'm not talking about the other, things that they find. I'm finding about, places that were actually like the Septuagint. Yeah, they found that there. Because of all that problem, people haven't gotten to the point where they want to read the real stuff. They just want to do the traditions. Traditional Christianity is Christmas.
All right, so let's move on then. You say it's because of biblical evidence. That's all right. All right, so let's get to the biblical evidence. By the way, thank you for answering that. I'm not trying to be rude, but I want to make sure we're getting actual answers.
I know. I answered it 3 times. It's okay,
you didn't, though, but it's fine.
I did.
So 1 Corinthians 24 says Abiah is the 8th family in the priesthood, correct? You agree with that?
Yes, it is. That's how it was done by Solomon, David, and previous to that, there were only 16.
Okay. So, and you believe that priestly cycle would start in Nisan, is that correct?
Well, that's the first month of the priestly year. Yeah, it starts in Nisan. But that doesn't mean that he started on Nisan.
Right. No, I'm not what I'm claiming. So,
right.
8 weeks into
Nisan. This is where you're going to find out. This is where
you're going to find out. Alec, CJ is about to ask a question. Could you please let him get the question? Thank you.
So 8 weeks into Nisan, or 8 weeks after Nisan 1st, rather, we'll word it that way. 8 weeks after Nisan 1st, Abiah does his temple duties. Is that correct?
That's what they're told to do.
Okay. And around what time of the year do you think that would be? Like, in your estimation, what time of the year on our calendar is the 8th week after Nisan?
8th week? So he does, oh gosh. Hang on. I got this. Hold on. Let me find because I got I always forget the calendar. Kislev, this and that. Kislev is, where did I put that? Oh, Jesus.
Do I need to pause the timer?
Yeah, just a second. I've got the
well,
maps.
if I give you my answer, can you tell me if you agree or disagree with it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You want me to resume the timer, CJ?
Yes, please. So, according to my estimation, 8 weeks after Nisan the 1st would mean that Abiah does his temple duties in what we would today call either May or June. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be no. It would be May or April or March or April, because it would have been during the Passover that all the priests would have had to fulfill.
So 8 weeks after March, though, is outside.
We're not going by March. We're going by.
Remember, Nisan is in our area of March, right? So we have to connect the two calendars, right? So around March or April, because obviously it can be either or, we would start Nisan, right? And then 8 weeks after that is when Abiah would do his temple duties, right?
Yeah.
So that would be 8 weeks after March, April would be May, June, excuse me, right?
No, it wouldn't be May, June. Sorry. That was his time.
When would it be?
He was conceived in about April or March, around what we call he was born in Nisan, but he was conceived on the next one, which would be, God, I'm trying to find that damn calendar. I just X'd it out. Man, hang on a second. I got it somewhere.
So I'm struggling to understand this, though, because if in no possible record is Abiah's the 8th week of the year still in March or April, right? Like if you start from
March, you do the calendar, you'll see it.
Yeah. Right. I know the calendar very well. If you do this, if you start the calendar at March 1st, which, by the way, that's even earlier than the calendar, the Jewish calendar can't start, because Nisan first starts the latest at March 15th.
Nisan is not just March, okay? It falls in the middle of those.
Right. That's why I said March, April. But we have to push it back as far as possible right now to make your argument sound as good as it possibly can. Let me explain. Okay. March 1 to 8, that's a week. 8 to 15, 15 to 22,
yeah, your math
22
to
to 29.
Before.
Okay, I mean it's just 7 days. I don't know how
You're
you figure math
forgetting
is
the
wrong.
bars and all the other stuff.
All right, guys, CJ, can you form this into a question?
Well, I'm basically just asking, how is it possible that the 8th week can be in April if the month starts in March or April? 8 weeks is 2 months. So how are we starting in March, April, and 2 months later still ending up in March or April?
No, the conception was later on in Tishri, the month that Jesus was. It was 6 months difference. I'm trying to get the.
I'm talking about. Well, we're talking about John right now, right? We're saying Abiah.
Yeah, John the Baptist.
Yeah,
correct.
Abiah's 8th week, or Abiah's temple duty, is 8 weeks after the calendar starts.
Tammuz. In the month of Tammuz.
Okay, what does Tammuz correspond to on our calendar?
That is July or August. That's when it would have been done.
Okay, so you'd say July, August. I don't think that's right by my estimation, but that's fine. That gets us at least
July or August.
So, according to Tractate Ta'anit, chapter 4, they double that because, of course, there is less than 24 weeks in a year. So, when is the second stint of Abiah's priestly duties? In other words, 24 weeks after the first one. When is that?
It's in July when he was born. When they that's the thing right there. So you have the first Tammuz on the 4th month, right? Because remember, this is the priestly calendar, not the civil calendar. So you got Abijah doing right after Hakka's Tammuz, and then his next would be on Tammuz. If you just count.
So 24 weeks after Tammuz is still in Tammuz. Am I hearing you correctly?
Yeah. So
because there's 52 weeks in a year.
So yeah, I understand that, but by the second time, John was already born then.
Well, it doesn't say it was first or second, but let's just put that aside for a minute. Okay.
But
what I'm asking is, when is that second stint? What is 24 weeks after the first stint?
24 weeks now?
Yes. So let's
just
go back.
Okay? 4 weeks. We'll just go 30 days each. So how many weeks you said?
24 weeks after Abiah's first stint. When is that?
We'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Alec, did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So you gotta understand that sometimes there were over you only had to serve once. You didn't have to serve twice.
Okay, but I've given you
a source that says that's not true. I know, but it never mentions this. I have to get this out. It never mentions a second time in the temple. It only mentions the first one when he goes dumb.
Okay, how many weeks are there in a year?
Well, by our calendar, 52. By theirs, it's less. It's like 2 weeks short.
Really? Okay. I own a Jewish calendar, so tell me how much weeks are on my Jewish calendar.
I don't know, probably 50.
Okay, actually, that was close. Actually, there you go. That's good.
I don't use Jewish nothing. I do use Torah.
No, that's fair enough. It's sometimes it's more than that, but as standard, that's true. So we'll roll with that. Okay, so there's 50 weeks, and each priestly caste does its duty for 1 week, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there's 24 priestly castes, correct?
Yeah, but you're forgetting about Nisan. What's the deal with Nisan? How many festivals?
Stop. We got to do yes or no questions, brother. You have your own time to grill me.
During this time, CJ answers questions, and you are to answer the question. If you need a clarifier, you can ask for clarification.
Literate on how many festivals they have in Nisan.
So there's 50 weeks. There's one festival. It's Passover. Okay, or you can divide that into two and say the Feast of Unleavened Bread. There's 1 7 weeks period. Okay, so you said there's 50 weeks.
Passover.
So there's 50 weeks. Each priestly caste has 1 week. There's 24 priestly castes. Alec, where are your other 26 weeks? Because you said they don't do it twice.
Some of them.
Where are those other 26 weeks?
I said some of them don't do it twice because they only need, people go on vacation.
All right. So where's the Bible say that, or any historical resource?
Well, the historical resource goes back to Daniel when he had 16 people working on the. So you do it with 16. How many times do they have to do?
That would be at least 3. But show me a reference for that. Show me where Daniel says that there's only 16 priestly castes.
It's not Daniel. David, King David.
Okay, well, you did just say Daniel. Okay, but let's say David. Where does David say there are 16? I mean, Chronicles is well after David anyway, so that's irrelevant.
It's in Psalms. Hang on a second. No. Yeah, some of them didn't load up. But anyway, no, it's in Psalms.
Okay, I gotta continue on with this.
My computer's acting up, man. I don't know what the hell with the internet thing. Trying to do this thing, it's going So
all right, so we got to move on because otherwise we're just going to spend all my time. So
yeah, well, you've already wasted a lot of your time.
Well, I've completely destroyed you.
I'll give it back to you.
Like, this is one of the worst abuse I've ever done.
I'll give it back to you. No, you haven't.
You were doing all right. Let's keep it cordial, please. No ad homs or anything like that. Let's get it back to questions and answering questions. Okay, go ahead, CJ.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. Give me. So, what is? Do you have any resource that says that Saturnalia was on December 25th?
No, exactly on the 25th.
Okay.
It was during the time of
not on the 25th.
Because the winter solstice moves. So
Saturnalia is not
on the
solstice
25th. So there is no source that was on the 25th.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you. So we agree Saturnalia is not on December 25th.
Not exactly, but
so
the day.
So what about Sol Invictus? Do you have any source after Hippolytus?
That's Saturnalia. Sol Invictus is Saturnalia. So it all has to do with the winter solstice. They just picked 25 for Christ. That's all it was.
What do you think Sol Invictus is?
It's soul. It's the victory of the soul or something like that. The sun.
It's the birth of Sol Invictus, the birth of the unconquered sun. That's what it is.
2-minute warning, gentlemen.
It goes back to Babylonian days with Tammuz being born after Nimrod gets killed.
Okay, do you have a resource for that? Do you have any?
Oh yeah, I have tons of resources on that. Not handy because that wasn't the freaking debate, man. We'll debate on that later.
Okay, well, you're claiming that it is. You're claiming that this is the December 25th is Tammuz's birthday, and now you're telling me that's not what the debate's about.
I never said December 25th was Tammuz. That never came out of my mouth. Would you stop doing your?
You just said Sol is Tammuz and agreed that Sol is born on December 25th. Is that not correct?
That is not correct.
Okay, then why did you bring up Tammuz?
On the day of the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, where he revives.
Which is December 21st, right? When's the winter solstice?
Generally on the 21st or 22nd.
There you go. Okay, thank you.
Of our month. Of our month.
So, Saturnalia, not December 25th. The solstice, not December 25th. When is Sol Invictus? Before Hippolytus right?
Dude, I don't really like it. If you're sitting,
answer the question. When is Sol Invictus born on the original Roman calendar?
This is going to be the last question. 30 seconds.
Because it was on. You just asked us 5 times, so it's on the winter solstice of the shortest day of the year.
All right, I just want the record to show that the original calendar says
you made up.
August,
you made up the
December
25th thing.
Okay, good. Go ahead. It's your
Jesus
time.
was born on the 25th instead of the freaking 30th.
CJ, you have 15 seconds if you want to try to get another question real quick.
We're good. I'm not going to be able to get anywhere with these questions, so we can just move on.
No, you're not, because it's really lame. I mean, it's not.
All right, take it easy there, guys. All right. Alec,
saying New Year's Eve, it happens.
Hold on, Alec. Wait, Alec. So on your word, you could start your cross-exam portion. So when you speak, I'll start the timer. Go ahead.
All right. So count from what you call July. We'll just stick with monthly things and go 9 months. See what
9 months forward from July. July is the 7th month, so that would be in April.
There you go. That's how easy this whole thing of the priestly of Abijah is. Because while he was doing the incense burning inside the temple on his very last day, right, Angel Gabriel came to him and say, and why should I have a son? Because I'm so old. Right?
Right, but you haven't actually demonstrated that I have to accept July as the time that he was in there.
It works out perfectly, because if he's conceived 9 months, there's no, unless you're going to, take him out early, have a preemie.
Is there a question in that?
Guys,
no,
okay.
No, I'm finishing up the question now. So as far as Sol Invictus, how is that a Roman god, or was it a Greek god at one time?
Sol Invictus Solus himself is originally a Roman god. Invictus is a conglomeration of Roman, Greek, and Persian gods that comes from the Roman Sol, the Persian Mithra, and I believe it is also related to the Greek Helios. Okay,
so as far as this question goes, was there a person named Semiramis who also had names of Ishtar, and was there a Ninus as well as a Nimrod?
Semiramis certainly existed. Semiramis is not Ishtar. Nimrod definitely existed. What were the other two names you gave me?
Ninus and Nimrod.
Yeah, Nimrod, I think, is a historical person. Ninus is, I believe, a deity, not actually a historical person. And Semiramis is not associated with Ishtar. Semiramis is, I believe, the mother of Ninu, if I am remembering correctly. I don't think I said his name correctly, but nevertheless.
Look it up. She was actually the mother of Nimrod and Tammuz. So Nimrod married his mother. Just saying. Now, there weren't a lot of people to do it.
Well, I can't ask questions in this, but I would just say I don't think there's a force there for that.
Same thing you did last time. So basically, there was no other countries that had their own festivals at the time. Yes or no?
None on record.
Baloney. You're going to say that there wasn't a big, huge, hot furnace for Nebuchadnezzar, and there wasn't a big, huge, hot furnace for Moloch, where they burned their babies on there. And
not on December 25th, no.
Not talking. I didn't ask you about December 25th.
You said at the time. Don't play games. You said at the time.
At the
yes,
time,
you did.
back
Dude,
then.
Roll it
There's
back.
no December 25th back there. I'll rephrase.
Okay, well, if you're asking, was there ever any festivals on the entire planet?
All right, hold on. All right, time out. Let's get this back on track. Alec, go ahead and ask the question.
Man, I mean, I don't know why you want December 25th to be such a holiday. It's such a crap day anyway.
Alec, let's get back to ask CJ a question, and CJ, please answer. Go ahead.
So CJ, the day that Christ was born, how did Mary and Joseph get to Bethlehem, and why?
Well, they had to get to Bethlehem because of the census. Augustus went a world through all the had a census go through all the world so that all the world could be taxed. So they traveled from Nazareth, where they lived, to Bethlehem, which is their ancestral homeland. Probably by foot, but maybe a bit by donkey or horse or something like that. You know, it doesn't exactly say.
How many miles is that? Look it up.
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know the exact number of miles, but I know that Israel is.
It's 100 miles. I'll just, play along with you. So you don't know much. I mean, so you got two people. She's pregnant, going, and she rode in on a donkey, and Joseph had to walk 100 miles. Probably took him how many days to get there?
Let's see, 100 miles. Usually people travel about 8 to 10 miles a day. Yeah. So somewhere between 10 and 12 days.
Yeah. So there's no way they would have made it by December 25th.
Why?
Because they had to be there to do what? Pay the taxes. Right?
I don't have any reason to believe that invalidates the.
But if you go back to when Elizabeth is talking with Mary, and Mary discovers that John the Baptist leaps in the belly because the conception of Mary. All right. Why'd she travel so far from Nazareth to Jerusalem?
It's not Jerusalem, it's Bethlehem. But because that's where they were supposed to travel, according to the census.
No, to see Elizabeth. You missed that. To see Elizabeth. And then Elizabeth.
You're not talking about the census anymore?
I never was talking about the census. I was just asking you if you knew. So the Elizabeth. So Elizabeth is at home. She's 6 months pregnant.
Right.
Mary just becomes pregnant. What happens with John the Baptist in the womb? It's quite an amazing tale. But where did Mary come from? I mean, on the beginning of that journey to see Elizabeth.
The Bible does not say where exactly she was. I'd assume Bethlehem, but the Bible doesn't say exactly where she was when she left to go see Elizabeth.
Well, she was living in Nazareth because that's where they were because of Joseph. Okay? Because that was the cover-up of Joseph being the father of Jesus, right? Because, you know, you play hanky-panky back then and you get a little prayy, you know, you're going to be hung up by your toes. So they had to keep it a secret. Then she goes and she visits her cousin, Elizabeth. Okay. And then 6 months later, Jesus is born. But anyway, still got to travel 100 miles.
How is any of this relevant to the conversation?
Alec, can you
Okay, so you send a single lady for 100 miles. You'd send a single lady to walk 100 miles.
Doesn't matter what I do. That's what happened.
So you would send a single lady.
Doesn't matter. That's what happened.
Yeah, but I find that highly suspect. That
well, then you find the Bible suspect because
Joseph wasn't there as well, because a woman traveling without a man that she's betrothed to at that time is something that they would call a harlot.
When did that happen? I have no idea what you're even.
When did it happen?
Let's get back to Alec.
Mary Magdalene. That's when it happened. Was she married to a man? No, but they called her a harlot, didn't they?
What does this have to do with the topic?
That you don't know a lot of the Bible stuff. You just know these facts.
You're just saying I don't know stuff. Ramble like a schizophrenic crackhead, my dude.
All right,
like,
guys. All right, guys.
It's asking you a question that you can't answer and you got frustrated. I'm sorry. Maybe your sunglasses are a bit too dark. I don't know.
All right. So, Alec, guys.
What?
Alec, can you get back to asking questions? CJ, please only answer the question. Alec, maybe bring up something from his opening statement.
He's failed on 4 questions, worse than I did. So,
okay.
How many minutes I got for this cross exam?
You still have 12 minutes and 12 seconds. Great.
So, when Jesus was born, okay, how long did it take for the King Herod to find out from the Magi?
Doesn't give us an exact time frame, but it says it's
2 years. 2 years. Why did he kill the children? Why did he kill the children from 2 years and under, from Bethlehem to all the cities of the shore?
Because it's within 2 years, like I said.
Well, the Magi got there in 2 years. So they were living in a house at the time. Mary and Joseph and the baby. They were no longer in the inn that they're at. So the question is, why don't you know that?
I do know that. I actually gave you that answer just now if you roll it back.
No, you didn't. You said it was within 2 years. You said it was within 2 years.
Right, because that's why you kill
it's
everybody
not within 2 years.
Younger, Alec, and younger.
Exactly 2 years.
And younger, Alec. That means also 9 months and 6 months and 1 year and 13 months,
so you're
Alec.
telling me they
all right, guys.
That's within 2 years.
All right.
All the way from Babylon to
you better do good, bro, because this is the last debate you're ever getting.
On camels, following the star. You say that only took them a couple of weeks?
Never said that. I said within 2 years, actually.
No, it was 2 years. That's why they took the number 2 years and under.
Right. And under.
Otherwise, it would have said 1 year and under.
And under.
Right. But that doesn't mean that Jesus was just born. They didn't show up 6 days later. Just
Nobody
saying.
said that.
No, I said it. I guess you heard it. Nobody's saying that they showed up 6 weeks later. Nobody's saying that they came up 9 months later. The 2 years sounds right. And then they fled to Egypt. And then they came back. Yeah, whatever. You want to do that.
Yeah, because I'm right.
You weren't there.
You're just factually incorrect.
You weren't there, and traveling by camel is hard to do.
You weren't there!
It's hard to do.
My goodness. Why ever have a debate again?
Yeah, because you're a loser, dude.
All right. Hey, we're not doing the
pretend,
ad homs, guys. Go ahead, Alec. Just ask him a question.
He's wrong about Easter. All right. So when John the Baptist immerses Jesus Christ, okay, why did he do it?
Because he's the Elijah that was prophesied to forerun his coming.
Elijah never immersed anybody. But anyway, the thing is, where did the immersion come from for Jesus? To bring the Holy Spirit, right?
You got my answer, dude, and you changed it to whatever you wanted to change it to. And that's
No,
fine.
that was a different question.
It's not a different question.
It totally was a different question.
It's genuinely not, though.
Well, the further you get in school, the more attention span you'll get better. So the thing is when Jesus Christ is there and John the Baptist comes and he's baptizing people, why didn't Jesus just baptize everybody himself?
Because he is not the Elijah who is prophesied to forerun his coming.
He's greater than Elijah, isn't he?
And
he came.
How does that relate to your question?
He came as a servant, but he's greater than Elijah. And that's why it was John the Baptist that, it wasn't any of the disciples or anything like that. So it's, just a little knowledge question. Now, on the other end of the the end, you never really hear of Zacharias or Elizabeth again, but never hear of Joseph. Why is that?
I don't know. Bible doesn't say.
Doesn't?
No.
So Mary was a widow.
Maybe.
So, all right. We'll let you go with that. Then on the other side of things, when Diana, that you say is only a fertility goddess, why did they have to go to the Diana temple and get temple prostitutes?
Who?
The Greeks, the Romans. Romans.
Diana's a Roman goddess, not a Greek goddess, but there is.
Yeah, they shared them. They shared them.
No, it's Demeter in the Greeks, but the Diana does not have temple prostitution. That's not a function of her particular cult. There are other cults that had temple prostitution, like Aphrodite and Moloch and so on and so forth.
Well, that's not what they told me when I went to Greece, buddy. So, anyway, I reserve my time.
You still have 6 minutes left, Alec.
6 minutes? Yeah. This is getting really overbearing because I don't know where he comes up with this stuff because it's not in the Bible. You just need to stick to the Bible.
Okay, guy.
Do you perhaps want to press him on something he brought up in his opening statement, or no?
No, it's not worth it. You're not going to change this guy's mind. He thinks he knows everything.
That's true. Actually, you're not, because I'm right.
Yeah, you'll learn when you get a little bit older. You're not right.
Yeah, I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen people like you for over 40 years, man.
That's
all right, guys.
Fantastic.
Just keep serving tables.
All right.
Will do, brother.
We'll go to closing statements. CJ, you can go first, and we only got one question. And I appreciate the people that have been here from the beginning. And I do apologize for the delay at the beginning, but I appreciate the between 70 and 20 people that have consistently stuck around. And so CJ, you can go ahead with your closing statement. How much time did I give you guys for your closings? It was 5 minutes. There you go. Yes, so you get a 5-minute closing statement. CJ, on your word, go for it.
All righty. So let's go ahead and see if we can come to some conclusions. This was easily the worst debate I've ever participated in, but nevertheless, I think we actually got a lot of really good information out of it. So, number one, we saw that contrary to the Scroogist belief that this was something that developed 300, 400, 500, 600, however many years later, some people even say it's a modern invention, we discovered that's actually not true. So we referenced Hippolytus. Hippolytus says Jesus was born on December 25th, and he is writing in the year 200, excuse me. We saw Depascha Computus, which says that Jesus was conceived on March 25th, 9 months to the day before December 25th, and that is in 240 AD. We saw that the Donatists were celebrating Christmas before 312 AD. And what all these things have in common? Well, of course, they're before Constantine. They're before Sol Invictus was designated as a holiday on 274 AD, rather. They're before Constantine. In some instances, some of these sources are before Constantine was even born, right? So Christmas as a celebration and December 25th as the day in which Christ was born predates Constantine, Aurelian, Sol Invictus, 100% of that stuff, right? So we saw that. We also saw that the Bible itself gives us evidence for a December 25th birthday, right? We start in the March, April area. We go 8 weeks down. That's the first stint that Abaya has every year. 24 weeks after that, we have a second stint that Abaya does every year. And from there, we can calculate the two possible dates. The two possible dates are sometime around September, October, and sometime around December, January, meaning those are the only two times, according to the Bible, Jesus could be born. And of course, one of those lines up with the historical record, and one of them does not, namely December, giving us good evidence for a December birthday. We saw that there is absolutely no link whatsoever to Saturnalia on December 25th. Saturnalia was not on December 25th by Alec's own admission. To Sol Invictus in December 25th until after Jesus was already said to have been born on that day, again, by Alec's own admission. No connection between Diana, Tammuz, Sol Invictus, Saturnalia, all these things, again, by Alec's own admission. And frankly, there's just not a whole else we can say about that. Now, I want to say something real briefly. And by the way, anybody who disagrees with me, we're going to have a open mic after show after this. So you guys can come in. We can have an open mic after show after this, right? I know that some of you guys out there who are anti-Christmas or even just don't think Jesus was born on December 25th, but you're not anti-Christmas, you may feel poorly represented by this conversation, right? The thing is, this is what the conversation boils down to. The evidence against December 25th is conjecture, is false anti-Catholic polemic. Now, I'm not Catholic. There's a lot of good anti-Catholic polemic. This is false anti-Catholic polemic, right? It is making facts up out of thin air. It's conspiracy theory, in other words. The idea that Christmas is a co-opted holiday is a conspiracy theory in line with the flat earth, in line with the idea that aliens built the pyramids, in line with the idea that there's Martians living in the moon, that the moon is a secret base like you see in the movie Moonfall, right? Like, and I understand that that is something that you guys may feel is abrasive of me to say, but it's just the facts. You don't have record, you don't have reason, you don't have scripture. The only thing you have is false claims about December 25th being a pagan holiday, and as we've seen today, there is no evidence that those claims are true. Now, if any of you guys would like to come over to my channel and say, actually, CJ, I have some good evidence, all right, that's fair. I'm willing to hear your evidence. However, I think at this point we see where exactly debates like this are going. So, Alec, hope you enjoyed it. Audience, hope you were edified by it at least somewhat. Kevin, thank you for hosting, and may God be glorified. Hope to see some of you at the after show. I'll provide a link in the comment section.
And thank you, CJ, for that closing statement. I think I will actually come over for the after show.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to have you.
All right. Let me restart the timer here so Alec can give his 5-minute closing statement. Let me add him to the stage. And Alec, upon your first word, I will start the timer. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I'm going to share the screen real quick.
All right.
Should be it.
I paused your timer.
All right. Okay, that should have done something.
And anyone have any last minute questions, send them in now. I see I got one more. Thank you very much.
I already did that. I'll just read it. You have my mic anyway. I'll just read it.
All right, I'll start your timer. Go ahead.
Man. What the hell is going on here?
Oh, we lost Alec. I'm sure he'll be right back. I don't know. He dropped out. Anyone out there hasn't liked the stream, please don't forget to smash the like button while we're waiting for Alec to come back to give his closing statement. Hello, Peter, Chris, Kelvy, Sherry, Ben. Oh, man. Actually, and CJ, if you want to give me the link for your after show in the private chat, I could also link it into side chat if you didn't put it there yet.
Yeah, actually, let me go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and let's see here. My computer is on Pacific time for some reason, so I had to change because it says right now that it's scheduled for 8, and of course that already happened in Pacific time. But for some reason, I just never got, or 6, excuse me. I've never gotten around to changing it. So let's see. Here is invite guests. No, actually, I want the link to the actual stream.
Thanks, Ben. Apologize for the dead air, folks. I don't know what happened to Alec.
Yeah, here I can also help with that a little bit by saying stuff. So for those who are interested, I just sent it to you in the private chat, Kevin. Oh wait, no, I didn't. I didn't actually hit enter. All right, now I sent it to you in the private chat.
Got it.
And I'm gonna. Well, I guess you're gonna drop that link right now. So if any of you guys are interested, you can come and discuss with me the debate or the topic. Certainly interested in having you guys there, and of course, Kevin, you're welcome as well.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, that'll be good. It's been about a month since we did anything on Synagogue, so it'll be good to have a conversation there.
I'm not having Alec, man. See, this is the second debate I hosted. The first one was between Graham and Veckel, and actually, I had an easier time moderating that one, believe it or not. Those two didn't give me as hard a time.
Yeah, and to be fair, I probably should not say some of the things that I said. I guess that probably wasn't particularly professional, but well, I'll give my thoughts on the after show. He frustrates me. I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll give Alec about another minute to get back in here, and if he can't come back in, I guess we'll just end the stream there. That's unfortunate because I wanted to give him a fair shot, to give his closing statement because you got a closing statement. Yeah. All right, I'll put my be right back up again, and then if Alec's not here in like 2 minutes, then yeah, I'm just going to end the stream. All right, guys, be right back. All right. Well, that's been 2 minutes, guys. So, CJ, what we can do, because I don't know what's going on with Alec, but the few questions we have, I can still ask them to you if you feel like answering them.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, first question comes from Kelvy Quayo, the Christian Sodium channel. He says, question is, does God expect us to be 100% sure about this topic?
No, actually, and that's one thing that would distinguish me. So for those who don't know, Kelvy would know this, but for context for some of the others, I am not a Roman Catholic. I am I think I said it earlier. I may not have. I'm Reformed, so Calvinist. My views would probably most align with the Reformed Baptist tradition, right? So now, why do I bring that up here? Well, because I don't believe in days of obligation, right? Like, if you want to celebrate Christmas, I think you should be free to do so. I do think it's Jesus' historical birthday. I obviously celebrate Christmas. I'm also a Jew, so I celebrate the Jewish holidays too. Get double the holidays and double the feasts, and I'm probably going to get really fat when I get older. But at any rate, but no, I don't believe in days of holy obligation like the Catholics do, right? I will say I think you can be 100% sure, or at least let me rephrase that. I think you can be as sure as you can be with any other historical figures from the time period, because maybe 100% is a little bit too heavy. But like, I'm very well convinced that Jesus was born on December 25th. I think it was probably during the festival of Hanukkah as well, given the possible dates 2 BC and 5 BC that he may have been born. But I'm rambling. The answer to your question, Kelby, is no. I don't think God expects us to be 100% sure. And I don't think you should be expected to celebrate Christmas if you feel that it's not good for you, right? Do what your conscience says. As long as you're not sinning, do what your conscience says.
All right, thanks, CJ. And the last question I got for you would be from Ben, English 7. He says, does CJ believe the possibility that Christ could have been born between March and April?
So there's actually two answers I'd have to give to this. The first is no. I don't believe that is viable as an option, mainly because of the argument I was giving earlier about the priesthood, right? So we have two possible times that Jesus can be born scripturally, unless we assume that John the Baptist was conceived well after the priesthood of Abiah, right? And given those two possible times, Jesus has to be born either September, October, or November, January, right? So scripturally speaking, no, I don't think it's possible that he could have been born around springtime. The reason I need to answer this with a second point, though, is because historically that was the debate. The debate was not between a fall birthday and a winter birthday, but it was between a spring birthday and a winter birthday. And so historically speaking, if you want to argue for a spring birthday, you do have resources. And I think the most prominent one that comes up is typically going to be Clement of Alexandria, who argues that he was born either on April the 20th or on May the 20th, not in March, if I'm quoting correctly. I may not be. You could fact check that. But nevertheless, so for me, it creates a kind of interesting Venn diagram, right? Where biblically you have two possible dates, fall and winter. And then historically you have two possible dates, winter and spring. And you have a Venn diagram happening there, which is winter right here, right? And then you have these two outliers, fall, spring. And so that's part of the reason why I would say I think December is actually more likely than either of the other two. But from a scriptural perspective, I don't think there's any good argument. From a historical perspective, I think there is a rather good argument. It's just, as Christians, we need to be able to line both of those two things up, right? So that's why I would ultimately answer the question no. But it's an excellent question, English 7.
All right, and thank you for answering that, CJ. And I apologize to the audience. Alec was having technical difficulties, and he participated as best he could with whatever's going on over there. So I thank Alec for still trying to come into the debate and keep his obligation. And if you did enjoy this stream, please like and subscribe. And if you're interested, come on over for the after show on CJ's party. The link is in the side chat, and I'll catch everyone there. CJ, thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And are you going to start it right away, or?
I'll be starting in 15 minutes. We'll go 8:30. 8:30 Mountain Time. I don't know what your guys' time is.
Yeah, I'm on Eastern. It is 10:14 p.m.
So about 15 minutes from where you're at.
All right. Sounds good, CJ. I'll see you there, man.
Absolutely. God bless.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, that's the end of the stream, guys. Only thing I got coming up is future episodes of Dave Hunt's book, What Love Is This? I'm doing a review with Graham. I'm currently editing an episode. It should be out, I don't know, maybe tomorrow or the next day, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, I'll catch y'all on the next one. See you over at CJ's. God bless everyone.